Hello, everyone. We're here for the debut of CFG Count Down, and yeah, we're going to be counting down our guilty pleasures, top 15 to be exact, and we get each having five, and
Five
we're
times
gonna
three is 15.
yeah, uh,
Nice.
Oh yeah.
and
Almost as good as orange as a color.
I passed grade 3.
well,
I'm sorry. Go
anyway,
ahead.
before we get started though, hopefully. Alex, if you're still doing those trailers for the show, could you add this to it? We're gonna be doing a live show a day or so after Comic Con wraps up. Part of that show will be a Q&A, so leave your questions for that in the comments section. We will answer them. So if you've got any questions for me, Magpie, if you got one for Steve, Baxi, and if you've got one for Alex, leave the questions in the description below. Leave them in the comments section below.
That's right.
Um,
Live show, exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting.
We're gonna be
Uh,
coming out with breaking news and everything.
yeah, so, but, yeah. So chances are we'll be talking about Comic Con there, and we'll give our thoughts on the panels and everything, news coming out of there and everything. So that should be good.
But at no point will we be attending Comic Con, so sorry about that.
No, but I will be going to Supernova this year, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and chances are I'll get to meet John Barrowman.
Give him a kiss for me.
Yeah.
Me too.
Uh,
What the hell?
Katie, I think it's Katie Cassidy from Arrow as well. Plays Laurel, and of course,
Tell her she's insufferable.
and Deathstroke's himself, Manu Bennett, and I'll make sure not to tick him off. Otherwise, he's liable to put an arrow right through my eye.
And kill everyone you love in the most convoluted fashion.
Yeah. But we should get to our lists now.
Well, should we say first maybe like how we chose to define guilty pleasures?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I chose to define it as something I know I shouldn't like, but I do anyway, and I usually have to come up with some sort of defense to justify why I like it. That's pretty much how I just find it.
I think in general, though, we went maybe a little bit more strict in things that we had trouble defending.
Yeah.
Because I know that's
Yeah,
what
like
made this
outside of
such a hard
nostalgia.
list for me to make. So I can defend anything.
'Cause, yeah, you can defend a plate. Steve, how did you choose to go? Did you go that route or?
Yeah, basically that route. Things that I feel bad for liking, but I can't defend in the least bit. And it's usually things I still really like, and I can't explain why.
Yeah.
It's not really as much nostalgia as I thought might actually be on the list.
Okay.
Like for a moment, I was thinking about putting Dragon Ball Z on this list, but no, I can actually defend that, and I still watch it. So
And I'm still waiting for them to change my light bulb. They say it's take about 6 more episodes.
we should do everything by the Dragon Ball Z clock.
Alex had a lot of trouble with this one. We were talking, and he was like, "Oh, but I can defend that. I can defend that."
We were making our lists live together, and it was hilarious.
It was tough. I was able to come up with things. I can kind of, sort of defend them, but not really. So that's about as close as I'm going to get, I guess.
Yeah, so Steve, do you want to start with your number 5 on your list? Because we're going to go 5 to 1.
Sure, let's go ahead and go with number 5. My number 5 is a 1989 film by the name of Tango and Cash, starring Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell.
Ooh.
This is probably, from what I've read of reviews, because I don't agree with this, but from what I've read of reviews, this is by far one of the worst action movies ever made, and one of the worst movies of the 80s ever. And no matter how many times I see it, I can't bring myself to see why. I watched it at such an early age, and I think it's just loads of fun. That term "foobar," I think it originates here, fucked up beyond all recognition. It's very strange. I think if you're young enough, it can grab you just right, because the opening scene is Sylvester Stallone standing in the middle of a highway with a revolver and only one bullet, and he shoots out a guy in a speeding truck coming at him. And it's pretty cool to watch. The logic of a lot of it doesn't make any sense. Kurt Russell dressed up in drag. There's weird monster truck fights for no reason. And somehow killing millions of people can result in you being not framed for crimes that people have evidence against you for. So absolutely no logic whatsoever. But
Yes.
it's not so bad that it's insulting. It honestly is just a load of fun.
Well, I've seen Tango and Cash, and it's not one of my favorite action movies. So, but I never thought it was stupid in any way. I just thought it was kind of Mirandaed along the plot a bit. But it's good. I'm pretty sure it's got the guy that plays Golden Cut in it, so it can't be all bad.
That's the best justification for anything ever. Michael Amo's in it, so it must be good.
I'm pretty sure it was designed just to be like a money-making movie just because it was two big-name actors and the studio wanted something for the summer. And I'm not sure what even went up against, but I have a couple of comics from The Question, and there's a bunch of ads for Tango and Cash in the back. Apparently it was a bigger release, but I don't know, I didn't see it in theaters or anything. I had a VHS of it from my dad.
Well, my mum's got it on DVD because she likes Kurt Russell, I think. And,
Yeah, Kurt Russell's great.
yeah. But yeah, so apart from some nostalgia and actually liking it, so you can't justify really why you like it, but you just do.
It's weird because at one point I tried to do like a written analysis of the film and I couldn't do it. I was watching it and I couldn't pick up on any plot contrivances. I couldn't pick up on any like bad deliveries. I couldn't pick up on anything. I was just watching it and everyone around me was telling me how bad it was and I just didn't see it. And I can't explain it, you know? I don't know what it is about it. I've seen it a million times and I can't pick up a single thing wrong with the movie aside from the fact that it's a movie with Kurt Russell in drag.
That's kind of scary though, right? Because like it makes you
Isn't
question
it?
your own sanity. Like
Yeah.
everybody else says this is the most horrible thing ever, and I can't for the life of me figure out why.
Yeah.
What's worse is when you know something's bad and it makes millions of dollars and you no idea why.
Trent. Star Trek. That's why this is number 5, though, because as we go on to the list, I will admit that what I'm talking about is really bad, but I won't admit it for Tango and Cash.
Unless there's anything else you want to mention, I'll see what Alex has got.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, so my number 5, and I guess the way that we staggered this list was CO5 being the most defensible, perhaps. Mine was just like competitive cooking shows in general. More specifically, the ones that I watch are like Chopped and Cutthroat Kitchen, and The Taste was one. The reason that I think these shows are like objectively terrible is they've turned cooking, which is something that, you know, everybody needs to do, and is even more essential nowadays given the whole like obesity epidemic and stuff. And if people were actually preparing their own food, that would probably be less of a problem because it would be, you know, real food, not processed stuff. But I don't like how they've turned cooking into a spectator sport, because I think it causes a sort of separation there, because it's like these are elite people and they're doing their craft and you couldn't possibly do this at home. It's not like the old style cooking shows, which is like, this is how you baste the turkey. This is how you put the turkey in the oven, that walks you through and teaches you how to do it. That said, they're really entertaining. And, that's just the perspective that I come from when I watch them. But I do realize, like, I feel like on a deeper level, there's like a real cultural problem with these shows. And so I don't want to like them, but I do.
Well, Alex, you should probably check out an Australian show called, I don't know if it's everywhere, but it's definitely out here. It's called My Kitchen Rules. And it's amateur. Yeah, it's an amateur cooking show, and they compete against one another. And so, from what I understand, it's pretty much that. And I'm just never got into the whole thing, so I never saw it as a terrible thing. I just was like, it's cooking. What do I care? I'm not much of a cook anyway, so.
Well,
part of the fun with.
Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, maybe with me too, I do enjoy cooking, and I can watch these shows and pick stuff up, but I know most people aren't doing that. So, like, it is problematic.
Yeah, and one of the best parts of cooking is when you make your own meal, it makes you more excited to eat it. It feels like an accomplishment, and it tastes just a little bit better knowing that you made it with your own two hands. Mm-hmm. So imagine people that are really good at cooking and really love it and doing it professionally, and then having to do it under pressure and being ridiculed for it. It doesn't seem like a fun experience, especially if you love what your craft is.
Yeah, and part of it with these shows too is like, say Chopped is a really interesting show because basically they just get given a basket of ingredients and they have to create a meal out of it, despite the fact that often it's really crazy stuff. And they'll run into problems along the way, or something terrible will happen, and then the judges will just rip them apart. And I don't know if it's just because they edited it out, but they'll just kind of stand there and take it, and it's like, stand up for yourself, come on. Or like, there will be certain rules or something, and somebody will get a higher grade from someone who doesn't stick to the rules, which always bugs me. As someone who was in a contest once, that bugged me in that contest too. But I won't go there.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't got much else to say on that. So.
Yeah, that does it for me for that one. Okay. I know it's bad, but it's fun.
All right. I'm ready to take the punishment for this one. My number 5, only because I admit I watch it, and only because I do a bunch of videos on this quite often. And I still watch it, but not the current stuff. Pro wrestling. I love it. I like the athletic contest that is behind it, but it's I know it's all fixed and predetermined. But my thing is, it's still a form of exercise that these guys are doing there. They've got to be in tip-top shape to do it. And yes, I do know it's very manipulative male soap opera, and guess what? I don't care.
Yeah, that's why I've always kind of just defended it, despite not being like a big wrestling guy. It's just meant to be entertainment, and I don't think anybody's under the illusion that it's not fixed. But it's like, how is that any different from an action movie?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've met like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I know I've seen interviews with some wrestlers, and they seem like great guys. So I never took wrestling as being insulting or bad. I just thought it was kind of popcorn entertainment.
Yeah, they're playing a character.
Pretty much.
Well, I thought I would take a much harder hit than that. I'm still kind of keeping my ear to the ground with it. It's just lately that the WWE's sort of it lost its luster for me, so it's more a company called TNA that I pay most of the attention to now. But even that's starting to... I'm not starting to like that as much either, because it's fallen by the wayside. But I still keep my ear to the ground and hear what's happening with a lot of my favorite guys, like AJ Styles, The Undertaker, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, those guys. But not really. No one has really captured my attention as much as The Undertaker in a while. But yeah.
Have you ever really gotten into the zone while watching wrestling? Like really got invested in whatever fake story that they were telling?
Oh yeah. Early on, when I really was enjoying it, I really got into a lot of what Undertaker was doing. Really, there was one where he turned what they call heel, bad guy, and I was like, he's completely justified with what he's doing. Injuring guys, supposedly injuring guys, putting guys on the shelf. He was entering this match called the Royal Rumble, and he came out, eliminated two guys, and then this young rookie came out, and he was getting all set up to eliminate him. But he got distracted, and the young rookie kicked him over the top rope, and he fell to the floor and was eliminated from the match. And then he just beat the shit out of the young rookie, and I was like, "Yeah, you take it to him." Yeah, for those who care, that's I believe the 2002 Royal Rumble. That was really quite good. But yeah. Quite often, yeah, anytime The Undertaker was involved in something, I was really invested in it, especially when he was taking on Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania as well. That was really good. But, yeah.
It's sort of in a weird no man's land between, like, you know, straight up wrestling and then, like, you know, an action movie, kind of like entertainment stuff.
Yeah. It is stuck in this weird place. Well, I guess that's done for each of our fives. Steve, you want to get on to your four?
Yeah, okay. So my number 4 is Yu-Gi-Oh! And I mean everything up to like the original to half of 5Ds because I never watched past that.
Okay.
The way my list is progressing is that we had Tango and Cash, which is something I can't see the flaws in, all the way up to the point where I can see the flaws, but I make excuses for it. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in that range where I see the flaws, but I don't try to defend it or make excuses for it. It's kind of in that weird no man's land area. Mm-hmm. Yu-Gi-Oh! Hit me when I was a kid, and I got really invested in collecting the cards, and I got really good at the game. My middle school had this thing where, like, it's a rite of passage where if you show up, you rank yourself by how popular you are by playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I came into my new school for the first day, and I had a deck with me, and I dueled the best guy at the school, and I beat him in, like, 3 turns. Oh. And it was hilarious. He bugged me about it for, like, 4 years, but it's not the smartest game. It's not even the smartest show. It does get progressively better, I will admit that. And it's definitely got some of its more zany twists where you know that they're doing it just to sell cards and nothing more. Like, it has nothing to do with any kind of story or character development or whatever. It's just an excuse to sell more product. But I still enjoy it. Something about playing the game and something about getting surprises in a deck of cards, something that makes just card playing a bit more interesting. And I'm an artist, and I really like drawing, and I used to draw pictures based off the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and I enjoyed how some of the monsters would have, like, stories behind them that they never explained. And I don't know, I think it's fun. And that's probably the most justification I have for it, is that it's pretty fun.
I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was usually on a morning show, like a morning kids show, and it was usually it really intrigued me. But I think it was like only the first 2 seasons, and we got out here, and I just lost track of it. I couldn't keep up with. I couldn't watch it every day, so I was like disappointed. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of DBZ-like, where you could skip 6 episodes and you could still most likely be okay with it.
Well, this was like they'd finished up the storyline. I think it was in the first season where he was entering a tournament for the first time, and
yeah, Pegasus's Island.
Yeah, that one. And then there was this little short one, opening one where it's playing a different sort of game against some guy with dice, I think it was, or
Yeah,
something.
Dungeon Dice Monsters.
Yeah, and then I lost track after that. But
The funny thing is that that's when it gets better.
but yeah, I wouldn't mind tracking down and keeping up with the story with those. It seemed like a really cool show, and I really wish I could have kept up with it. Alex?
It does get a little bit better.
I was never into Yu-Gi-Oh. I I think by the time that came out, I was just kind of getting over Pokemon, Digimon. So,
Yeah.
but I'll get more into that later because of something that's on my list.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm keeping a little bit quiet.
Okay, all right.
That's fair. I guess I'll just end off by saying I think Digimon is actually legitimately a good series, and Yu-Gi-Oh is not.
Yeah, I agree about Digimon.
No matter how good it gets later on, it's not a good series.
All right. Well, I haven't got anything else to say, except I wouldn't mind checking out more of it. I'll probably get it on DVD at some stage.
If you have the cards, I guess it's a little bit more fun because you start thinking strategy, even though there isn't much to it.
Well, I'm more of a Magic the Gathering guy than anything else.
Okay, yeah. Magic is a much better game.
Yeah, see. But yeah, okay. Alex, you're number 4.
My number 4 is Star Trek Voyager.
When that show is good, it's really good, but when it's bad, it's really bad.
Which is most of the time, unfortunately. Now, shameless plug, Magpie and I discussed season 1 over my channel on a podcast, and you can check that out. But
yeah, it is in my playlist of Magpie elsewhere. So
okay, cool. Should be easy to find then. But yeah, the show had like the best premise of any Star Trek series ever, and one of the best premises of a sci-fi series, period. And you can hear this in our discussion of season 1, they just went nowhere with it. And then halfway through the show, they got a new character, Seven of Nine, who was a former Borg, and it basically just became the Seven of Nine in the Doctor show. And granted, they were the most interesting characters, but it was like the whole ship could have blown up and it could have been just them two on like the Delta Flyer, and that could have been the show more or less at a certain point. And yeah, like there are good episodes. I would say they're even potentially great episodes, and they're just kind of few and far between. And I'm somewhat of an apologist for the show just because like this was the first Star Trek series that I got into. It's rarely so bad that it's unwatchable, but I feel that way about bad Star Trek in general. But yeah, it's just not very good, and it's really unfortunate because it had a great premise. And I will sit down and watch episodes of Voyager, and I will sit down and watch episodes of Voyager that are not good. And I can't really defend it other than that it's nostalgia. It's vaguely entertaining. It's in a franchise that I have a connection to, so yeah, it's just one of those things. If I guess, if you're a fan, you're gonna eat it up regardless, despite the fact knowing that it tastes bad.
well, I'm gonna disagree with you on one point, and that is that there was another character that was in there that was really interesting, Tom Paris, and I think he's one of the few characters that actually had a pretty good arc throughout the series, and he is my favorite.
Yeah, that's maybe fair. Is on the Delta Flyer you could have had the Doctor and Seven, and then Tom and B'Elanna, and those 4 characters kind of weirdly became the core of the show as it went on. Because there was the whole Tom and B'Elanna relationship, which was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Tom Paris, so he's my favorite Trek character ever. So yeah. But there's some times where they do some stupid shit.
The threshold is a thing, and that's hard to ignore.
Oh, yes.
And also, I mean, I feel like Star Trek First Contact, the movie, did this as well. Well, maybe even started with Descent in TNG, but the Borg get totally wussified in Voyager, and the Borg were like the most awesome and frightening villain in Star Trek, period. And it's just like they got totally neutered in this show. And there was like 709 is kind of a weird Mary Sue as well, and like you've got Janeway and the Borg Queen always fighting over her.
Yeah. We'll probably leave the major crux of the discussion. That's just for another show. But I think it didn't start with Descent. I think it started with Iborg.
Oh, really?
Someone else did a video on it, and they presented some good points, and I tend to agree with them. Once you start to figure out how a certain a villain works, they do become pretty wussified. I think, though, Belducat is the exception to that rule. But yeah, kind of leaving Steve out here on the lurch. So.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Star Trek. So I've seen TOS and I've seen TNG all the way through, and I've seen the 2 recent movies.
Yeah.
I've got no comment, really.
Okay. But yeah, Alex and I could talk all day, but I want to. If you haven't got much else to say, Alex,
no, go ahead.
Well, I gather this is a show that you guys haven't probably seen, but this show kind of defines a lot of my later teenage years and my early 20s, and very early 20s, and that's The OC. It was a show that was on out here, and it did pretty well in its first season, and then the ratings kind of fell off a cliff, and I don't know why, because the show in the second season was just as good. They did just as much good stuff in that as they did in their first season, but then the third season happened, and that was a complete train wreck. So they had to kill off one of the main characters in it to sort of justify anything happening. But during that third season, there was this great character that was brought on called Taylor Townsend. She was really funny, but she was started off as a bitch, but then sort of came on and went on and did some really cool stuff on it. Then the fourth season happened, which was really good. Unfortunately, it was only like 12 or 13 episodes long, and the show got cancelled. And that was really sad for me, because there's a lot of this show. I remember going home and watching it on TV after going out, spending the night out. But yeah, a lot of great memories wrapped up in this show, and a lot of it is nostalgia. But I still legitimately feel the show is good. It's just like, I don't know what I'm missing. Maybe I'm missing something. I can't. I hear bad things about the show. It's kind of like the one of those. I could have legitimately put teen dramas in here, but this is one of the ones that I'm just like, this is the one I hear so much bad stuff about. I just don't, but I don't know why. One of the main guys in this is going to be in Gotham. He's playing Jim Gordon. It's got it had a whole bunch of cool actors. Sorry, I just can't remember their names off the top of my head.
Was it a show famous for guest stars?
Yeah, Kevin Sorbo was in it. He played one of the fathers in it. The father of the main character in it in the fourth season. Autumn Reeser, the character I talked about, Taylor Townsend, one of the main reasons I went over and watched Last Resort, which we will talk about sometime. Cheap plug. Alan Dale was in the first season and the second season. I don't know if he's a pretty famous Australian actor. He popped up in The West Wing. He was actually in Captain America, played one of the senators, I think, in that. Hologram senator or whatever.
Oh.
He's the one that didn't die or whatever. But yeah, he was, left this show to be on NCIS for a while. Yeah. Uh, God, I can't remember any. Misha Barton. She was like the famous chick that was on this. She was on it. There was some guest stars, but I can't really think of too many. Like if you watch the show, you'd probably go, "Oh, I know them from such and such," and I know them. Olivia Wilde was on this as well. Famous.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, big deal in the second season was Misha Barton and her made out. But okay, didn't really like big deal at the time, but like kind of like now. Yeah, I should have taken some notes down about the show, but I do really like it. I may get you guys to watch it and tell me what I'm missing in it being so bad.
Yeah, I never watched it. It was one of those things where, yeah, I guess I did hear bad things, or like more just that it was like it's one of those shallow teen soap kind of a things.
Yeah.
But that was more or less it. Like I never heard this is the worst show that was ever put on TV.
I just put it on there because I'm a dude and I probably shouldn't like it as much as I do.
Fair enough.
I know a lot of people were kind of down on it, but I never watched it. I saw the trailers, didn't think they looked especially great, but I guess teen dramas really aren't my thing, which is ironic because I forced you guys to watch Veronica Mars.
Well, that will be coming up soon, I'm sure. But we got something else to do as well. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it. Really, like I just enjoy it. I love the roller coaster ride that it puts me on. I especially love the bombshell that is dropped in the second season. I loved how they came up with the catchphrase "Christmas," which is Hanukkah and Christmas combined. Yeah. But yeah, that's all. So, Steve, number 3 now we're up to.
All right, number 3. Something that I think is actually bad for you. My number 2 is actually really bad for you. But this is just kind of bad. Call of Duty, the whole franchise of video games. It's got a terrible story. It always has a terrible story. It always has pretty bad voice acting. It's always one of the most repetitive things ever, and it will kill your attention span. But I don't know. Sometimes I just want to get home and shoot people on the internet. Is that so wrong? I used to be really into it too. Like I'd get up at 6 in the morning and I wouldn't put it down until like 10 of that night. And I don't know how I did it before. There used to be a big thing in that like Prestige where you get like a certain level point and then you'd start over again and you like rinse and repeat until you get to the final Prestige. And people used to do that thing in a weekend and I had no idea how. I was really into doing it. I don't know why. It's a ludicrous game series. It has a bunch of fancy guns that all sound the same and do the exact same thing, and it's just not well executed. It's literally people will buy this game, so we'll get the same model and give it a makeover with something that looks different, even though it's not. The one credit I can give it though is the games do get they do get better when it comes to graphics, and that's not much of a compliment, but whatever the new game is, it certainly looks good, and Kevin Spacey's in it.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that, but I guess that's because the House of Cards connection, because his character plays it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like him sometimes, where it's crazy that I would be sitting down playing Call of Duty, but I don't know, it helps me relax.
Never played it, but I hear good. I have never heard bad things about it.
I haven't played any of the modern ones. I think I played 3 that was like a World War II one. And it was okay. I felt it was too constrained in where you had to go and what you had to do and like how you did it. So I wasn't really a huge fan. But yeah, those games do always seem to come out, and every time I see it advertised, it looks like the exact same game as the previous one.
It's very basic, really. when people buy the game, there's a campaign, but no one plays the campaign. They go straight to online, they pick a gun, and you just start shooting anything that moves until you get really good at shooting things that move before they move at you.
Yeah, I guess
And
that's the
a lot of
appeal is the online stuff.
Yeah, and no doubt it's a well-crafted system. It doesn't crash as often as other online things, and it's busier than other online things. But it's not good for you, you know? It kills your attention span. Anyone who plays it, anyone that I know that is a fan of the franchise, doesn't seem to have much else going for them. And the only people I know that play it and are really like good, intelligent people are people who admit that it's a crap series. It's literally just there to make money. It's an Adam Sandler movie in video game form.
Ooh,
That's an interesting comparison.
yeah.
Especially because he just came out and said he only does the movies for the money.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that, though.
Yeah. I guess I was kind of harsh on it, but I don't know. I regret playing it so much in my earlier years.
My number 3, yeah, is actually a number 5, and that is it's Battle for the Planet of the Apes. It was the 5th
nice.
movie, and last movie, and I guess the original form of the franchise. And I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan. And this one just isn't very good. I don't feel like it adds a whole lot. I don't know. It takes a couple concepts that they had brought up earlier, and this is set post the apes being in charge, basically. But it's like the first, or maybe the last, I guess, like big rebellion of human people against them, sort of. And that sounds like it could be kind of interesting, and it's not. And like the final battle involves like nuclear irradiated mutant people like driving to battle in giant school buses and stuff. It's not very good, and they try to be as deep and interesting as the previous ones in the franchise, and it's nowhere near that smart. That said, every time it's on TV, I will watch it from beginning to end. I don't know why, but it's just one of those things. I like Planet of the Apes. Even if it's bad, give me some apey goodness.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. I haven't seen any of the Planet of the Apes movies at all. Not the new ones, not the old ones. They used to be airing on a channel called TV1 that's no longer out here anymore because it lost its funding or something. But yeah, it was.
I've seen every movie a couple of times. I'm not a huge Planet of the Apes fan, but I do like when they're good, they're really good. Like the first one and Rise to the Planet of the Apes. I thought they were both great. Do you have this where? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that's something that we maybe neglected to talk about when we did reboots was, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, because the franchise has actually been successfully rebooted, and that doesn't happen very often.
No, and then didn't kill anything that made the series like fun or goofy in the past. Like it still has a ridiculously long title, and the next one's gonna have a ridiculously long title, and it's still monkeys killing people, but with much darker ideas behind it. Do you have this with the Planet of the Apes movies, where every time they make a new one, they're going for a different genre, or they're going for like a different cliche, and sometimes they succeed, like with the first one and kind of the second one, but other times they fall flat? With that said, I think the 5th one is good in that at least the battle between all these prosthetic apes and the humans looks pretty good, considering the time period it was built in and the amount of prosthetics they had to create.
There's not much behind it, I guess, is the thing.
No.
And, it's widely considered to be the least good of the Planet of the Apes movies, and I think that's definitely true, but it's one of those things, like I said, I'll watch the hell out of it.
Oh yeah, totally fair. Although I think I'd argue the Tim Burton reboot is probably the worst.
Oh yeah, that's true. I meant more, I guess, of the original run.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I still like it though. I like every movie in that franchise for some reason. But only a couple of them are pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I think 1, 3, and 4 really would be the best of them.
Yeah, 1, 3, 4, and Rise.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just so happy we live in a world where Planet of the Apes not only got rebooted, but it's as good as the original.
Yeah, it's very strange. I can't wait for the next one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for it. But Magpie, what's your number 3?
Yeah, we'll have to probably do something about that. Try and get me into Planet of the Apes at some stage.
Oh,
but
awesome.
Yeah,
they released some Blu-rays recently, so.
Well, I might have to check that out. But my next one is something that we're going to be talking about on the Aussie podcast pretty soon. I think imminently, and we're probably going to be doing and we're definitely going to be doing a commentary very soon for the movie of this. And it's got another movie coming out as well. So look at that. It's become a franchise. Is Howzers. The reason I put this on the list is because it's not necessarily a comedy you want to admit to watching, but we're going to be doing so much of that with it. But
I can admit it. I like the show.
It's very well. It's very crude humor. It's not something you could probably sit down with your girlfriend and watch, unless she was that way. Unless she's
Shazza.
It's not. Yeah, or you can't really sit down with your mum and watch it. Probably with your dad. But yeah, I really like the show. I think Frankie is hysterical. I'm sorry to see that the woman that played his girlfriend got killed off in the movie. Spoiler, sorry. But yeah, and what I really love about it is filmed out here, and plus, it very recently won a Logie for light entertainment. And it's worth tracking down the acceptance speech by the guy that plays Frankie. Sorry, I can't remember his name. Oh, I feel so terrible about that. But yeah, it's such a entertaining show. It's filmed not too far from where I am. It's filmed around Sydney, so it's really good. But the humor in it is pretty out there and pretty outrageous.
Yeah, and I think, as a show that was loosely inspired by the Canadian show Trailer Park Boys, I think Trailer Park Boys is above and beyond a far smarter show than Howzers is. But that said, I still like it. And I admittedly think, too, the second season of the show is less good than the first. Because it relied too heavily on just, like, every character had, like, a really cool moment in the first season. Like with Daza, like there was one time that he mooned somebody, and Vanessa's always like she mentioned one time that like she had the best ass in all of Sunnyvale, and then like for every character that just became their shtick in the second season, and like every episode that they were in, they made that same joke, and it just kind of got tiresome.
Yeah, I guess they were kind of on catchphrases, but there's a crossover happening with Fat Pizza, which is another show I've been meaning to check out, so I'm going to be checking that out sometime soon and maybe put it on the Aussie Canuck podcast list, but that will have to wait until next year. So, yeah. But yeah, sorry, Steve, that you haven't got much to say because you haven't seen the show.
Nope, I have not seen it, but I've watched your podcast, so I'm going to check it out at some point.
Okay. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. We are going to talk about it more in depth later on, and we're going to be doing a commentary on the movie very soon. So
yeah, wait till you see Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne's hysterical.
It is.
But yeah, that we're really getting close to the end now. So number 2 from you, Steve.
Okay. My number 2 has moments where I get legitimately frustrated and angry and insulted by this series. And I don't know why I keep watching it, but I do. It's 24. It recently has the new miniseries 24 Live Another Day, and me and Captain Logan review that weekly. But I don't understand why I like it. It's a really bad show because it's built on this 24-hour format, and every episode's an hour, and every season's of one day. Everything's consecutive. It runs into this problem constantly of every hour feels like it's been days. There's ridiculous amounts of stuff that can happen in an hour that should not take an hour, and characters keep progressing and regressing at the convenience of the plot. Jack Bauer, the main character, feels like he's read the script ahead of time. There's points to this series where you can predict everything, literally everything. Like you could say 2 episodes in, Jack will get shot. 5 episodes in, he'll have some dramatic confrontation with a loved one. 7 episodes in, someone in their team will double cross them. 16 episodes in, the villain will be revealed and they'll do like an all-out chase thing. And by the end of the series, the villain will probably be dead or tortured or something, and Jack will go into hiding or pretend he's dead. And it's extremely predictable. It never gets any smarter. And I mentioned insulting. It's legitimately insulting because the show kind of kicked off after 9/11, and it handles a lot of the political torturing and conspiracy theories and things like that. It does a lot with Muslim characters, and it does this thing where it tries to have its cake and eat it too, where you'll have like these really stereotypical American redneck guys who beat up on an innocent Muslim guy because they're supposed to be dumb and stubborn and set in their ways and for no justification. But the guy they beat up will actually be a terrorist. So you don't know how to feel about that because you're like, on one hand, you have to support the dumb lummoxes, and on the other hand, you can't. It plays on this stereotype, and it makes you have some really weird mixed emotions about it. And it's just not that great of a series. Season 5 is really good, but everything else about it, it's too set in its ways, and it's a show that I don't think they fully understood what they could do with 24 episodes. It's kind of a novelty thing of having a timer go through each episode. With all of that said, though, 24 Live Another Day, with 4 episodes in, I think it's really, really good. So it's nothing like its predecessor.
All right, I've watched quite a bit of 24. I think you told me I was up to season 5 or something because I told you what was happening at the end of the last episode I saw. So, but I always kind of liked the show, but I kind of fell off the wagon once because it did start feeling repetitive, and I was getting a bit dull with it. But I have you played the game by any chance?
I have. I enjoy the game. It's not great, but I enjoy it.
Same here. I haven't. I only played up to a certain point because I never actually owned it. But I rented it out, played it, and I enjoyed it most of the time. But yeah.
I think the thing that keeps people going with that show is Kiefer Sutherland's a really good actor, and he really sells the tension of that show, even though it's extremely contrived. And sometimes it's fun to just say, "Damn it, Chloe," and do it now in his really, really aggressive voice.
Yeah, I want to see what happens though when Jack Bauer meets the guy from Taken, Liam Neeson's character.
That would be a great crossover.
Speaking of crossovers, did you know that there was going to be a 24 Die Hard crossover?
Okay.
No,
But they abandoned it because Die Hard wanted to make a Good Day to Die Hard, which is probably one of the worst films ever made.
Did you say Live Free or Die Hard?
No, A Good Day to Die Hard, the one with his kid.
Oh, okay. No, that's the most recent one.
Mother Russia.
That one.
Yeah, that one. Live Free or Die Hard, I like, but A Good Day to Die Hard, no, not so much.
Yeah.
Jack Bauer is kind of like a John McClane character archetype, but he's nowhere near as fascinating as John McClane was in his first movie.
Nah, I gotta agree with that.
Yeah, I like the series a lot, and I don't know why. It's kind of that 24-hour format thing where it's fun to see the tension build episode to episode, and it always has great cliffhangers, kind of like Arrow. So you kind of feel compelled to go watch the next episode.
Yeah. I just I think there's certain other shows we probably should think about bringing back. Like we need a new Star Trek series on the air, and I think we need something like The West Wing back on the air as well.
I always thought if you could revive 24, or you could revive Star Trek. I don't know. I don't know why we haven't gotten a new Star Trek series.
Studios.
Yeah. Yeah, 24
yeah,
seems like
kind of all
something that would have worked really well as like a mini-series, but then to keep doing it seems odd, because it does just seem like a gimmick.
Yeah, it really is. It gets to this point where you realize that they ran out of ideas halfway through the episode or halfway through the season, and they create this weird convoluted nonsense where, oh, you stopped this plan, but it really was just a ploy to get this bigger plan from this other guy. And it doesn't make any sense. And then they'd be like, shit, they foiled our plan. Let's really quickly within this hour come up with a new plan instead of regrouping for a couple days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of all I got. I give no defense for that show because I think it is pretty bad, but I do enjoy it.
I've been meaning to check it out, and maybe one day I'll do what Captain Logan did, 24 hours, 24. But
if you do that, do it with season 5. Season 5 is perfect for it.
Okay. The problem is I'd have to have it on DVD, and that would, yeah. And the thing is that I'd have to have commercial. I'd have to incorporate the commercial breaks.
The best way to do it is just to watch the episode straight through, and then take like 15-minute breaks between episodes to like eat and go to the bathroom and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. May do that at some stage, but
yeah. Let me know how it turns out.
But we should probably move on to Alex's number 2 now, unless there's anything crucial you have to say, Steve.
I really want to hear Alex's number 2.
Yeah.
So, I almost put the New 52 Earth 2 book in this slot, but I've since dropped it, and I might come back to it. And that was a book that I was reading because it just wasn't... It was interesting world building, this other alternate universe, but it was just bad. Like, it was badly written, and the story was okay, kind of interesting, but yeah, it was just horribly written, and I didn't care for the art either. But the thing I did choose was Rush, like the band, and musically I like their stuff, but lyrically I just despise it because so much of it is inspired by like Ayn Rand and that sort of thing, and I just find that morally repugnant. And so, I'll have to be like listening to a Rush song and then like mentally blocking the lyrics out. Like, I really like the music to the song Trees, but that song is probably their most Ayn Randy song ever. And like, yeah, it's just, I don't know, musically I like the band, but I'm embarrassed to say that I like them despite the fact that they're, a hugely popular band, a hugely popular Canadian band, but it's because it's just, I don't want to say like, yeah, I'm willing to tolerate this thing that I find just horrible.
I couldn't name a Rush song if you put a gun to my head, but
Tom Sawyer, Working Man, all those ones. Closer to the Heart. Rush is actually on Trailer Park Boys, so you'll see that in season 3 once you get to it.
Yeah, I gotta find time to buy it on DVD because I really do like the show. It's just never not really a music guy. I probably have heard a couple of their songs, but I couldn't tell you if I had. So sorry.
Fair enough.
Rush is actually pretty popular over here, and I never listened to anything by them. But I guess you and I were having this conversation via messages just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
About how music can get away with having bad lyrics simply because a lot of the times it's there just for background noise. And it's easier to justify some person's bad taste in music only because everyone's taste is so diverse. It's kind of like comedy. But with Rush and being inspired by Ayn Rand, a good friend of Ayn Rand's made a huge donation to my school, and his one condition was that a library be fully stocked with Ayn Rand material. So everyone at the school at some point or another had to read something by Ayn Rand. And that
feel
kind
sorry
of
for
forced me
them.
to say, yeah, exactly. So now that you say they've been inspired by them, I might not check them out.
I could point to certain things that aren't, like their album Hemispheres has the song Trees on it, but the first side of that LP is this gigantic suite that's just called the Hemisphere Suite, and there are different parts to it, and it's all about kind of almost Nietzschean, like it's about the Apollonian versus the Dionysian, and then like finding the balance between it, and that I really, really like, and that was like the first Rush stuff that I heard, and then I got to that later part in the album and to other stuff, and it's like, this makes me feel icky.
Well, I guess that first side actually sounds pretty fascinating, so I might check that out.
Yeah, I would recommend that. It's just certain things. It makes my skin crawl.
Have you guys ever listened to Green Day?
Yes.
Okay, because I think Green Day, it might be Rush done well, since it is always seems to be kind of forcing a political agenda, but it makes sense in a way that I guess Rush probably doesn't.
I don't think Rush was ever necessarily trying to push a political agenda, but it was just more inspired by... It's more poetic, I guess, than that. But...
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, none of their stuff was really, like, overtly political. It was more the philosophical side of things.
Right. I guess I can kind of dribble into nonsense, though, because I think it is a brand.
Yeah. Dribble into nonsense, yeah. But that does it for my number 2. Yeah, just great music, bad lyrics.
All right. My number 2, I don't really have much of a defense for. I love its convoluted storylines for each one of its movies. I didn't particularly like the way it ended off, but it looks like that's not going to be the end of this franchise. It's going to be brought back like so many other things are. It hasn't been gone that long. Of course, talking about Saw, I love this franchise, and I just love its convoluted storylines. I love how far they go with the blood and the gore and everything. I really can't. It's got some great actors like Carrie Elway's in it. Danny Glover was in one. Tobin Bell is a great actor. I'm hoping he comes back for another one. And yeah, Shawnee Smith is beautiful. I just loved her character. She came back a few times as well. I can't really name any other actors that have been in it, but there are definitely some good ones. But yeah, it's just so really I cannot defend this franchise anything except that maybe it added something to the horror franchise that's been missing, because something that's like directly to the right of me, the Billy puppet, is probably one of the most iconic images in horror in at least 20 years, because because someone else brought this up. Okay, you have Freddy, you have Jason, you have the the guy from Halloween, Michael Myers.
Mike Myers?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, but yeah, those guys from the 70s and 80s. Billy is probably since them is the only other iconic image of horror that has come out since then. I mean, if you really stretched, you could maybe come up with another one, but like, who was...
Probably Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Yeah, that's the guy he brought up. Like, if apart from him, who else has captured the mind? But But yeah, I really am not gonna try and defend this at all. It's one of those guilty pleasures that I have that I really cannot defend because it's blood, it's gore, and um, I recently did a whole night and then part of the morning too, doing little reviews of the movies. So, and I actually, when I went back, I didn't hate the last one as much as I used to. I just got over a lot of it. It's just there was things about it that I really wish they'd um, done stuff with that they didn't seize the opportunity that I think they had. And there are reasons for it because partway through the production, they got told that that was going to be the last one, and they were really planning on doing a two-parter. But there, damn Lionsgate. But that was because of Paranormal Activity came out, and everyone went and saw that instead of Saw 6, but Saw 6 was awesome, which is really annoying. Because that was the one with all the healthcare. No, like, the whole backdrop was because there was a whole lesson about how healthcare sucks in the US. It's not much better here. But yeah, I can't defend that. All right. But unless you guys got anything really to say about it.
No, I haven't seen them. I've heard really good things about the first one, and then I've just kind of heard the sequels weren't as good.
I've seen the first one, and I thought it was just so random and unexplainable and just really contrived that I just never went on until the next one.
Yeah. What do you expect from two guys from Melbourne?
I mean, I don't know what they were thinking with some of the plot twists in that movie, but I have to admit that I did enjoy watching it. I couldn't turn it off for some reason.
Well, that's another thing I enjoy is the plot twists. Some of them are like the one in the second one I totally saw coming. I totally saw that one coming. They tried to surprise me, and I'm like, I saw that coming. But I guess we can move on to everyone's number one, starting with you, Steve.
All right, my number one. The first one I couldn't see any mistakes with. After that, I got to like bad for you to insulting to things I will make excuses for, which is where I am at now. This thing is really bad, and I recognize that it's bad, and I know everyone who sees it is bad, but no matter what, I will try to defend it, and I will make excuses, and I'll make things up, and I'll make fan theories, but it's bad. It's Moonraker, the Roger Moore James Bond film.
I have not seen it, but I've heard it's bad.
It is one of the worst films in that franchise. The only thing that's worse is probably Die Another Day.
I like Die Another Day, but I haven't seen it in a while, so I could...
Well, fair enough. It's more entertaining than this one, I guess. The thing about this one is that I saw it when I was really, really young. Like, James Bond was the thing that I saw ever since I was a kid, and I don't have a memory of when I haven't seen a James Bond movie. And Roger Moore has always been my favorite one. Despite people thinking he's too campy, I just think he's a really good actor, and he always sells it. And yeah, this film is really ridiculous. It's Bond in space, and he has lasers, and Jaw finds love in like a weird ponytailed glasses chick in some foreign country. And it makes about as much sense as you think it would, especially considering that they have lasers that they never use again, and apparently gravity doesn't work the way it does in our world. But the thing about it that I enjoy is that it's so tongue-in-cheek about it. Like, it knows it's a really bad film, and it knows that doesn't make a lot of sense, but all the actors sell it, you know? They have fun, they smile, they wink and nod to the cameras, and it works on that level. And Ian Fleming isn't necessarily the most realistic guy anyway. I don't think he would enjoy Daniel Craig's James Bond films as much as everyone says he would, because he liked playing with concepts that seemed almost too sci-fi at the time. They don't in retrospect, but back then they did. And I've seen an argument that said if Ian Fleming lived to see it or lived to discuss like the space race, he probably would have made or wrote a book similar to how zany and wacky Moonraker is. I mean, it is the guy who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang after all. So, I mean, it's not a great film by any stretch, but I enjoy it. And I've noticed that if you give it to people, they will smile and they will laugh and they won't have like a bad taste in their mouth. It's not one of those. It's just not particularly good.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it. But...
Yeah, I don't think it's a great movie, but like I can see with all the Roger Moore ones, like why people would enjoy them. I mean, they're fun to watch.
It's kind of the Adam West Batman years of the James Bond films, really. Like, in retrospect, they aren't as bad as everyone says they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of does it for me, because I don't want to say anything against this film. I just like it too much. I don't know why.
Alex, you're number one.
So after our discussion on Terminator, I thought about putting Terminator Salvation on my list. Because I don't think that's a good movie, but I still enjoy it. But I didn't. I went with Pokemon for my number one. And I don't know really how anybody can defend this other than that, like, it's just a fun thing that we watched when we were kids. Because it's dog fighting, basically. And, like, 13-year-old kids get to run off and leave home and go capture wild animals and make them almost kill each other. And
then knock them unconscious until they capture another one.
Yeah, and that's just morally repugnant. I can't defend that. I mean, it's like yeah, kids grow up to be like Michael Vick. That doesn't. That's not a good lesson.
Oh.
That said,
and if you disagree with someone, just beat them up in a fight with your pet, and they will almost automatically be your friend.
Yeah. And all of that said, like, those video games especially were so much fun. The show was pretty good, pretty entertaining. The movie, or at least the first movie, was awful. And like they all cry and they bring Pikachu back to life with their tears. But yeah, it's dog fighting, it's cog fighting, it's mongoose versus snake in the street kind of thing, but like it's an institution in that world. It's like that is the fabric of their society, is animal fighting, and that's horrible. but that said, it's just so much fun to play.
Yeah, you just have to remember that this is. I like to think of it more as like teddy bears fighting monsters sort of thing. It's like it's not nowhere near real, but I see what you're saying, and yeah, it can be. But
the trouble with it is, like, okay, that's a very literal reading of it, but I can't really come up with like a metaphorical interpretation of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, neither can I. I just like Pokemon sort of came at a time when I was really starting to not really watch much in the way, not really watch anything in the way of cartoons, and that was until, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh came along and I started watching cartoons again. So I kind of missed the whole Pokemon thing. I did hear about it. I did watch a few episodes, but I never got sucked in to it. You see, because I was still kind of that. Oh, nothing is going to be as good as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That's a ridiculous statement to say.
Did you reveal the your number one?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh. Well, I was just wondering, was that it?
No.
Okay.
I thought about putting it on my list, but I don't like it that much anymore. Because I'm sure, like Cap has said, I put much more mythos behind a lot of the stuff than there actually was in the show.
Mm.
Like, I thought there was a much deeper and darker side to Tommy than there actually was.
He is the ultimate Boy Scout.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
I agree with Steve's earlier point that Digimon, I think, I haven't gone back and rewatched it as an adult, but from what I can remember, I was probably more sucked into that show. Like, cause I would be just, if we went out someplace on the weekend and the show was on, like, I had to VHS the show and you'll watch it as soon as I came home. And I think it probably was legitimately at least decent from what I can remember. More compelling in terms of like characters and stuff. And the monsters are sapient in that, so it's maybe a little bit more defensible because there's consent involved. And they're digital. So.
A couple of years ago, I actually rewatched like all of Pokemon and all of Digimon, just to see how it held up. And the thing about Digimon is that they weren't fighting for sport, at least in the earlier episodes. They were fighting to help each other and to save each other and get out of scrapes. Like, it was a survival thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with Pokemon, it's always this weird problem of the only way to get people to agree with you is to beat them up. And they never actually justify why this protagonist is supposedly interesting or really good at what he does or anything like that. Everyone's given like really random traits, and it's kind of the most childish of anything we've kind of discussed here. Like Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon are all in the same vein, but Pokemon never grew up.
Yeah.
Like Digimon like started as an adult and turned into a kid's thing. Yu-Gi-Oh started as a kid thing, got a little bit better as it went along, but Pokemon has just kind of been stuck in a rut, and I don't know what they're planning on doing to keep it going.
They keep adding new ones, I guess, so that's their whole not so successful plan of attack. Because I don't think it's a huge thing anymore. I mean, it's still around, but
the games still sell ridiculous amounts, and I don't know why.
Yeah. I was like a Pokemon hipster, though. I was into it like a full year before anybody else.
That's hilarious.
Just saying. Well, because my mother used to work at the post office, and so sometimes they would get, like, people would throw out their junk and stuff, and there'd be a lot of, like, advertising things, and so I got a lot of copies of, like, the Spider-Man magazine that, like, people would get and throw out. As well as there came a tape one time, and the tape was actually like an introduction to Pokemon tape. I have no idea why they made that, but it was like some weird advertising thing, and I got into it from that. So I guess it did its job. But yeah, just that's a weird story when I think about it. Like, weird. Just VHS tape came in the mail. But
it's actually kind of very Yu-Gi-Oh! Where VHS tape comes in the mail and steals your soul for a few years.
But that's my number one. I really can't defend it other than that those games especially are really entertaining and fun to play.
All right. My number one. It's something I still want to. I've heard that there was going to be a sequel. I'm hoping it's still going to happen. Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but
Nope.
Great Hans Zimmer score. In it, I think that's like the nicest thing I can say about it. But basically, Gretel in it is badass and sexy, and I love that. She has this line right at the end that I put in my Facebook quotes, which is, "I'm afraid it's not going to be an open casket," and then you hear this bang. Because yeah, in Germany in like the 1400s there was guns. And it's ridiculous. They're out hunting witches, and they all look weird and ugly, and it's really, really weird. There is an extreme cut of it, and I don't know why it wasn't put in to the main cut. Like, there's this big section that's cut out, and if you watch the original cut, you'll be like, why is this happening? And you'll be like, oh. Okay. Then if you watch the extreme cut, yeah, you'll see why. It's a lot of blood and blood in it, and I really can't justify. It's kind of like why I can't justify why I actually like 300 Rise of an Empire. It's sort of in that vein. Like, it's schlocky, so
But yeah, it's deliberately schlocky.
Yeah, I mean, it takes the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel and says, well, what happened to these guys like 10 or 15 years after they burned that witch in the oven? And yeah, that's what the. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's kind of like a really big budget asylum film, isn't it?
No, because it tries to bring logic into it. I would say it's a step above that. It's not trying to be deep and meaningful, but at the same time, it's not trying to be too stupid either. Because some good actors in this, but the one thing I do have a little bit of a problem with it is that they actually have to make one of the characters a good witch, and I know why that's there, because we do have so-called witches in this world, and they are trying to do hippie type things, bring peace and tranquility to the world. So you have to have that token character in this, and yeah, it's just like. But the funniest thing I have said about this is there is a character named Edward in this, and he's more lifelike than the one in Twilight. Even though he's probably completely CG or a guy in a costume. But yeah, I really don't try and defend it, but it's like, it's ridiculous. It's out there, but it's not something for everyone. But I just like it because it's got badass Gretel in it. And pretty girls saying bad words are really nice.
I see where you're coming from.
It's kind of. It's kind of sad that Jeremy Renner did this immediately after Avengers.
Yeah, because it's not like he got a whole lot to do in that movie either.
Yeah. Well, and he also Born.
Well, this was pretty good a use of his talents. He gets like quite a lot to do in this, and he actually does get to show his talents as an actor. I think, as much as they can be in a movie called Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I actually thought the Bourne one that he was in was pretty decent. So
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. I heard people don't like it, but I don't know.
I've heard that too, and I don't really know why. It's not bad. It's just kind of, I don't know. I would give it maybe like a 7 out of 10, I guess. It's just one of those type of movies.
Well, I haven't got much else to say about that. So, do you guys want to wrap everything up now into a nice little bow?
Yeah. Did anybody have any honorable mentions? Because I mean, I mentioned a couple of things that didn't quite make my list.
I wanted to add Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla to my list. But I feel like that's kind of deliberately hokey and bad, so it doesn't really qualify.
Mm-hmm. I kind of feel the same way about Punisher Warzone, actually. That's a movie.
That was another.
That's a movie that a lot of people don't like and think is terrible, and I think is really quite enjoyable. But like, it's deliberately trying to be a schlocky exploitation film.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I wanted to add some Ghost Rider stuff because there's a period of Ghost Rider that really sucks, but I realized I could defend too much of it, so I didn't decide not to.
I thought about putting sitcoms on my list, like just generally.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, well, everyone's probably going to say they like a sitcom or something. It's I just can't. I couldn't figure out a way to say what I generally liked about them or anything. And I think most of the rest of my list was pretty much there. So sitcoms would probably be 6th on my list.
Hmm. Fair enough.
I still think there are like some legitimately good sitcoms, but I see where you're coming from because so many of them are so bad, but you still really want to watch them. Like How I Met Your Mother was with that was the same kind of experience with me. Like
Yeah.
I know it's a bad show, but I had to keep going with it.
Yeah, I sort of like it was good for its first couple of seasons, and then like there was
Yeah.
more and more episodes where you were like, "Oh, I could just skip over this."
That's
A
true
quick
of most
plug for one of your
sitcoms.
videos, though. A quick plug for one of your videos, though, because you did an alternate ending for How I Met Your Mother, and everyone should watch that because the last episode is so bad that it actually ruins the series. You can't go back and watch it without thinking about how bad the finale is.
Yeah, and plus I think that ending was written when they filmed that last little bit, and I think they could have edited something together to make it look like well, we couldn't use that footage and just use it as a bonus thing on the disc when the last season comes out, because things change, guys. I don't know why they were building all this time to that, but yeah, go check out my alternate ending out because it makes much more sense. And not just because it's on my channel.
The real reason.
Yeah, but should I just mention what we're planning on doing next time?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, the next thing that will probably be released is something we recorded earlier, which was, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been released yet. It's the Doctor Who one we did, which was my pick. But the next countdown we're going to be doing is our top 15, 5 from each of us again, shows that we love but are no longer on the air. And we'll probably mention binge watching in that as well, because I'm sure a lot of the shows we'll mention we will probably have binge watched one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably touch on that.
And with that, are we talking about shows that were prematurely canceled, or
As long as it's not on the air anymore, you can talk about it and add it onto your list.
okay?
All right.
But yeah.
That'll be hard to narrow down.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I know.
it is.
I know it'll be difficult, but I'm sure we can fit time in there for extra time for honorable mentions for that one. So, yeah. Okay. So, goodbye, farewell, meeting adjourned, gentlemen. We will catch you all next time.